Okay, well, say I'm in recovery and I've just never really been overly spiritual, or I've not really been a person that goes to church or whatever. This is not aimed to replace any spirituality or to tell you that this is the way it needs to be done. The shamanic counseling process of learning to journey is a way of giving you first-hand experience, direct knowledge, in a way that you just can't get any other way, as far as I've experienced. I mean, it's close in mindfulness, the approach, that's a more cognitive thing. And then with the meditation, which is a similar space, but really not that similar when it comes down to it, to journeying. And I will have a guest on, a new addition here at Wind and Raven, who she specifically works with mindfulness and meditation and yoga. See, I'm in Mexico, I say yoga now. And so I believe because it happened in my experience. I was delivered the news that I not only had to give up drugs and alcohol, that I had terminal liver failure in 2011, which then developed into cancer. And all during that time is when I started looking for alternative means, because I said, I don't buy your myth of death on the day that they gave me the diagnosis of 6 months. And to note, that was now 11 years ago. So I'm glad I didn't make that purchase. And so part of my seeking was to look for things that I really would never have considered. And though I had earlier in my life had experience with shamanic practice in a way, when I was living out west with the Navajo, I had never myself really gotten into it until that time. And so I spent the first part of the decade, up until 2015, just doing that. And in 2015, I was invited into a recovery group to talk about how I had lived regardless of what people were telling me, because so often in recovery people say things like, oh, my life is over, I'm not going to have the same social structure, I'm not going to be able to do this, I can't go to football games, I can't do whatever it is. And in a similar way, it's a sort of death of the old you and a rebirth of the new you. So I came in and talked about that, and I did not directly mention shamanism there, but they could probably pick up by the way I was talking that I wasn't your average everyday approach, because I was very into it. That's all I had done. I was able to sell my company to allow me to just stay at home and not have to worry about income. So that's really all I did for those 4 years. And I visited with lots of teachers, and I experienced quite a bit. And so also that year, I began doing groups for both recovery. Within a month of that first recovery visit, I became first in those days, one of the earliest designations of recovery coaching, which was put out by the National Organization for Addiction Professionals, NADAC, called Recovery to Practice. And then from there, they developed a recovery coach track. And so I went through and became a nationally certified peer support specialist, which is basically a recovery coach. But then I went on to CCAR, which is the Connecticut Center for Addiction Resources or something along those lines, CCAR, and became a trained actually recovery coach, and then trainer of recovery coaches by CCAR. And then realized that I had amassed enough hours in education to be this close to a drug and alcohol counselor, which I really didn't have any interest in, but I said, why not? So I added it to it. But like I said earlier, it only lasted a year, because of the fact that though I had been basically working in that capacity with individual clients, being sort of handed them by social workers and people like that they thought that it might be good if I met with this individual each week, and they trusted me, so I was sort of working on they're able to do that in medicine. And so I had a lot of experience as a counselor, even when I was still a coach. And coach, counselor, whatever. It's not like I forgot anything just because I lost my counselor license. But legally, I cannot represent myself as that. So I made it, right? I mean, look where I'm at right now. I was supposed to be dead now almost 11 years. And I've gave up drugs and alcohol in the way that I was using them in those days, on a dime when they told me that news. And, I gave up that, I gave up meat, I gave up a lot of things. And so, anyway, now here I sit in 2021 after going through all that we've gone through, and I still work with people in recovery, and I have worked with a lot of people in shamanism as a shamanic practitioner, as I eventually became on a similar sort of training path. And so I figured it was time to sort of mesh these two together, literally in kind of the way that I did it, and see if it could help anybody else, because it's a damn tough spot to have any of those things. Recovery is not easy. It can be, but for the vast majority of people, it's not. And cancer, it's cancer. So you don't have to really say much about that, especially when you're talking about a major organ, like liver cancer. That's a biggie. And I'm not bragging about that. I'm just saying that, these are hard spaces, and I've been down them. I'm not going to say you are me and I'm like you and you must do it like whatever, but I'm just going to show you. I'm going to illustrate to you some of the things that I think might be able to help. And so you'll see a variety of videos over the coming chapters. There'll be some of them that are purely on shamanism, but the messages contained will be very pertinent to the recovery path. And then they'll see others that are specifically for recovery. And maybe you're taking this course this class, whatever, not specifically for drug and alcohol counseling. I think that it is value for anybody, regardless of why you take these, to take it all in, because collectively it is, I'm hoping, as powerful of a message I can deliver from it to you in the way that it helped me so much. And I obviously am the cause and effect of everything in my life. I look at it like that. I'm not blaming anybody for everything. But at the same time, I know that I had a lot of help. And embracing shamanism with the open mind that I did in 2011, and then eventually getting into drugs and alcohol as a counselor, in the professional space, and with the relative ease that I sunk into both, and then I saw how it helped people. I couldn't really explain that, and nobody could really explain why I was still alive either during this time. The doctors, up until 2019, I still had 6 months to live. But anyway, I hope that answers your questions, all the 3 questions that I posed at the top of this. Now let's get right on into the course. Thank you again for being here. And if you have any questions anytime, email me, steve@windandraven.com.